circulated on local WhatsApp groups back in Bangladesh. So right now we don't have any confirmation. In fact, we don't have any additional source to corroborate. Right. Let's clarify that for our viewers. Third and the important one, Avantika, before you leave. That in the morning, even these videos are also getting circulated on social media platform. The convoy of black cars entered the airport, and there were luggage which was being loaded in the chartered aircraft. Now, it appears that some VIP is traveling from Dhaka to some place. Now, who was on that chartered aircraft? And you know why the luggage was being loaded, and why so many vehicles were seen entering the airport. So there's no follow-up information of that. So a lot of developments taking place. Situation is dynamic. It would really be interesting to see that whether army takes over the country, or president will be given the powers to form the interim government by dissolving this government and call the fresh elections.
Well, actually, you know, that's an important point. One will have to wait and see as to where things go and how do they shape up given the present situation. I'm just going to go through all these updates that are coming in. Sheikh Hasina may also be compelled to hand over power to the military for an interim period. And Sadan, she also has been left with no choice given the kind of anger that one is seeing on the streets of Bangladesh. Young protesters coming out, calling her a dictator. You know, she's been ruling the country since 2009 with an iron fist. Obviously, she was left with no other choice but to step down, because that was one big question mark. Will she relent? Will she have no other option but to give up her seat of power? So in that scenario, the question remains is, will the army then take over? Will they handle things in the interim period till her party decide what's the next step, or the opposition decide what's the next step?
Well, look, Avantika, army can take over the country, but you know there would be a fresh constitutional crisis in case if army takes over the country, because the unrest is not only against Hasina but also against the army. Because last time around, if you remember, when clashes erupted in Bangladesh, army was pressed into civilian areas, and those footages are still very much alive. When you know the stones were thrown at army vehicles, and you know the civilians and the army were face to face. So army also doesn't enjoy popularity in Bangladesh. So in that scenario, if army takes over, then there would again be a series of unrest, clashes and disruption in the country. So for now, people are looking for a change in government. People are looking for a fresh leadership. And if army in a way becomes the torchbearer of the cause that people are fighting for back in Bangladesh, then army may take over the country, but the power could remain with the president. President can dissolve the government and can form an interim government or an interim setup to run the country till the fresh elections are called. In fact, some of the journalists who were speaking to Zaka a short while back, Avantika, did drop a hint that there is a high possibility of fresh elections being called, because Bangladesh has come a long way of being ruled now by a dictator or a military man. You know, people there need representative, need good leadership, strong leadership, and that is what they are fighting for from such a long time. So if Hasina has been replaced, even if some reports are telling us, Avantika, that Hasina was given a deadline to resign by army. Now, we don't have an independent confirmation to those reports, but some reports suggest that she was told to resign because look, you know, situation is getting out of hand. There were 10 lakh people on the streets of Dhaka, Avantika, and one of the eyewitness has told me this. So, you know, there was no other option, and maybe because she has resigned, so army may have also provided her with a passage to leave the country. So that's kind of a deal that has taken place between Hasina and army. This is what it looks like at this point in time. But army taking over the country will create more chaos, more disruption.
But
and
Siddhant,
also
the army
be a
has
big
also had a
Indian
history of coups and counter coups. And she herself has been very defined. She's called the agitators, these protesters, terrorists. And at the same time, while she was saying that, while she was condemning them, you had the army in Bangladesh standing by the people, saying that, you know, they will be always for the people. They will be, you know, for the voices of aggression against Sheikh Hasina. They, in fact, have stood by the people. So could they have been a hand of the army in unseating Sheikh Hasina?
Well, I mean that is something which time will tell us, Avantika. It would be too early to make any sort of commentary
Fair
on that.
enough.
But yes, you are absolutely right. In some places, we could see in the videos also that army is perhaps not attacking the protesters. They are showing good gesture towards protesters. So we have those video footages as well. But yes, right now, one thing is for sure that this is army which has made Sheikh Hasina resign,
Okay.
because army told Sheikh Hasina that look, there are 10 lakh people on the street and there is no
Siddhant, just
way out
kindly
now.
stay with me. I'll just come to you. Sushant Sareen, a strategic analyst, is joining us on the broadcast. Sushant, thanks for speaking to CNN News 18. What do you make of these fast-paced developments in Bangladesh? One has been seeing the unrest and very unruly scenes being played out, but the news of Sheikh Hasina fleeing amid the clashes. How do you respond to this bit of news coming in?
Look, I think the situation was becoming extremely untenable for her. And I suppose it was after the failure to quell the rioting that was taking place all across Bangladesh, despite taking some rather drastic measures to curb the rioting. I think that kind of wrote basically her government off. It was not possible for her to stay on in power any longer. And once the army refused to fight on the mobs, then I think it was virtually game up, because the army would have had to kill many more people to quell the kind of rioting that was taking place. And I think it was no longer possible for them to, and I don't think they were ready to do it anymore.
Exactly.
So I
On
think the
that point,
writing was on
Sushant,
the wall.
that's a very important point, because that's what one is now thinking about. All eyes are on Bangladesh's army as the unrest intensified amid news of her fleeing. She may be now compelled to hand over power to the military for an interim period. The military has had a history of coups and counter coups. Do you think a scenario like this is developing in Bangladesh?
No, I think we don't know what will happen in the interim. Let us assume that somebody has to take over power. I don't
True.
see how the Awami League can, continue to stay in power by replacing Hasina and bringing in somebody else. So clearly there is a complete constitutional breakdown. Somebody will have to step in, and chances are that it is going to be the army that will step in. Number one. Number two, if the army steps in, then will the army say that, okay, fine, we're going to go in for a fresh election? Will they say that, okay, fine, to hell with democracy for the moment, we are going to set things right before we go back for democracy, and then bring back certain other things which Hasina had scrapped, for example, caretaker governments and all of that, bring that in so that, there's a caretaker government that takes over. Maybe you go back to the time, I think it was 2007, 2008, when there was a caretaker government and had an elongated period in office. You maybe go back to that time and then, go in for fresh elections. We don't know. So we are in, uncharted waters in a manner of speaking at this point in time.
Absolutely.
So one is that. And then, but the only thing is that for the army to come into power for an interim is all right. But I think if they try and prolong their stay, then there will be certain international repercussions. Because, nobody likes a military rule anymore. I think the army will be extremely aware of that. But the other thing is that, it's the international players also, the Americans in particular, who have been rather nasty as far as Bangladesh is concerned. I think a lot of the destabilization that has taken place has partly been an American kind of action.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Because look, Sheikh Hasina herself was making allegations that they wanted, to carve out a small area and create some kind of a Christian enclave. Now maybe she was just, firing something which is not true. But there have been these allegations, and we know it for a fact, and that's in public domain, that the Americans, for example, have been sanctioning people from the Awami League. But the same Americans have done nothing, for example, in Pakistan, where there has been a complete murder of democracy, a complete election was stolen, results were changed in the night, and nothing has happened out there. The
Right.
Americans, in fact, are heaping encomiums upon the generals in Pakistan for fighting terrorism. Now, I have not heard anything more bizarre in my life that the Pakistanis are fighting terrorism. But those are the double standards of the world, and unfortunately, it seems the Sheikh Hasina fell foul of them.
Hmm.
So there were mistakes that she herself made, and there are lessons for that for I think everybody around the world. Uh, but having said that, I think she was done down by countries like the US and some of the other Western countries,
Okay.
which have adopted double standards and operated with complete hypocrisy.
Very interesting, Sushant. Thanks so much for joining us. Anil Trigunath, who is also joining us, he's a former diplomat. Mr. Anil, thank you so much for your time and speaking to CNN News 18. Your thoughts on the developments in Bangladesh with protesters storming the Prime Minister's palace and reports coming in that Sheikh Hasina has been left with no other alternative but to flee her residence amid the unrest and the very, very, bloody agitation and riots that one is getting to see in Bangladesh. What do you think could happen next?
Well, I think in the first place, these have been very disconcerting developments. And as Sushant mentioned, I mean, there is no doubt that there were external factors, there were internal discontent and dissent that has eventually prevailed. And I believe that Sheikh Hasina also did not handle it well, rather than accusing the students and youth of being terrorists or working for somebody else. Now, this is how in Bangladesh has a history of a bit of a volatility at the popular level. And there is not first time it has happened. People just come to the streets. So I think that if the army were to impose the army rule, I don't think that will be very acceptable. In the process, meantime, they will try to find somebody who could be more acceptable and anodyne kind of a leader, and then the elections could be called. But I hope that with her leaving the political scene, there would possibly be some kind of restoration of law and order in the country so that it does not further escalate.
But, sir, you mentioned about the army. If the violence on the streets leads to instability or absolute chaos and disorder, the military, which so far had distanced itself from the very violent situation, would also emerge to be the central player, because we haven't really heard from any other member from the Awami League as well as to what really happens next.
Well, Awami League is now in the docks for the moment because of being part of the government. I mean, they were the ones who were ruling the government, but the other opposition parties also don't have that kind of a heft that they can be there until after the elections. But at the same time, the army, could as well take it. I mean, the power, but they know it that then the public ire will set on them, and they know they can't handle 10 lakh people going against them. I mean, so crores, we are talking of more than 12, 15 crores. And so this is something that is the discontent at the level, which will have to be only addressed by a duly elected government. And obviously, if the army takes over under the pretext of the current ongoing crisis, I believe that this will lead to a very major problem for Bangladesh itself in the international scenario.
Interesting. And, so I wanted to also understand from you, she's Sheikh Hasina. She's someone who has been in power for such a long time, since 2009. She's been ruling Bangladesh with an iron fist. Yes, there have been a lot of accusations against her rule, against her style of functioning. How did things get so bad? And why did we see such a huge level of discontentment, dissatisfaction, anger, and grievances amongst the people of Bangladesh against her?
Well, it is because of the economic condition and the government's become popular over time. There is a stink that hits in. I mean, this is a normal thing. Will prolonged rule by a particular government or a party naturally leads to a lot of discontent on the ground. And basically, the youth dissatisfaction had been increasing, and Bangladesh economy has also not been doing that well. And all these, and the people are not seeing something beyond the horizon. And therefore, the discontent at the grassroots. And this was like quota and abolition. In fact, it's ironical that the government of Sheikh Hasina had opposed the quota. It is not that they were. So, but this became a major issue for the opposition. And the way this this was handled these protests, I think they led to the people just getting against the government per se, and may have got some assistance from outside. You never know, but at the same time, this is a normal thing that one sees in the case when there is a general discontent at the grassroots level.
What about India? How do you think India is going to be viewing the present situation, given its history with Bangladesh, the cordial ties, India's relationship with Bangladesh, which is anchored in common history, its culture, heritage, etc. Sheikh Hasina making 2 trips to India, the G20 summit, and after that as well, the Prime Minister breaking protocol, going personally to welcome her as well. In this scenario, sir, what would India's position be?
Well, I think that India is naturally concerned about these developments because they will tend to impact on the bilateral relationship, on the borders and other things. But at the same time, I think that India has stood by all the neighbors. And as you know, our neighborhood first policy is a non-reciprocal policy whereby we try to help them so that they are stabilizing, their security is there, the economic development is there, the human resource capacity building is all increased. That's what India is trying to do, because the belief is that if your neighbors are growing, then you can grow. I mean, that is something the policy of neighborhood first policy has been prescribing all along and has been practiced. But in this kind of a situation, watch and see exactly how the situation emerges. I'm quite sure that we are watching it very closely.
All right, Mr. Anil, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your views on the kind of turmoil that Bangladesh is witnessing. CNN News 18, Siddhant is keeping a very close track. Siddhant, we're also getting in news that these protesters who have been, raging on the streets have also stormed the Prime Minister's palace. If you could just give us more information and the kind of unrest that one is getting to see in the wake of the anger and the turmoil in Bangladesh that has really led to the situation that we're witnessing today.
Well, absolutely, Avantika. In fact, we are getting these visuals from the official residence of Sheikh Hasina, and the protesters have stormed her residence. In fact, we could also see very less police presence outside her residence, very less army presence outside her residence. And, it's a clear open way for the protester to climb onto the walls and get into the official residence of Sheikh Hasina. So country is in complete chaos. Disruption could be seen on the roads of Dhaka, and this could only be possible.
Kindly stay on with me. We have Dip Azad, who is in fact a journalist, joining us from Bangladesh. Mr. Azad, thank you for speaking to CNN News 18. Big developments happening in Bangladesh, with reports coming in that the Prime Minister has fled the nation. Can you tell us what exactly is happening now?
Yes. This is happening now. You just already heard that Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina stepped down at around 1:30
yes.
Today. And after 2:30, she left the country by a helicopter to India. It's possibly to it's Agartala or Tripura, this kind of place maybe. And now protesters entered to Ganabhavan at 3 p.m. today.
No, so has it been confirmed that she's on her way to India, Mr. Azad?
Yes, I heard that. I heard the source from India that she already.
Mr. Azad, stay on with me. We have the Home Minister from Bangladesh joining us on the broadcast. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Big developments happening. We're getting to hear that the Prime Minister has put in a paper. She has resigned, and there are reports that she has fled the nation. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, he has resigned most probably. Most probably he resigned. He resigned.
So, can you confirm that she has resigned, Mr. Khan?
Yeah, so far my knowledge, so far I have received information. He resigned.
So, what happens next now? There are reports coming in that the army will take over.
Army will take over, most probably.
Are you confirming that the army will also take over?
Most probably.
So is this true that Bangladesh is on the brink of a military rule now and that the army is going to handle things?
Yeah, that is. You just wait for a few minutes. Our army chief will
So will there be an
deliver
official,
it.
okay, so will there be an official reaction from the army chief?
I don't know. I don't.
Okay, we're getting a reaction from the army now. Bangladesh, let's listen in.
আমি আপনাদের কথা দিচ্ছি সমস্ত হত্যা সমস্ত অন্যায়ের বিচার আমরা করব আপনারা সেনাবাহিনীর প্রতি আস্থা রাখেন সশস্ত্র বাহিনীর প্রতি আস্থা রাখেন আমি সমস্ত দায়িত্ব নিচ্ছি আপনাদের জানমাল এবং আপনাদেরকে আমি কথা দিচ্ছি যে আপনারা আশাহত হবেন না ইনশাআল্লাহ আপনাদের যত দাবি আছে সেই দাবিগুলো আমরা পূরণ করব এবং দেশে একটা শান্তি শৃঙ্খলা ফিরিয়ে নিয়ে আসব আপনারা আমার সাথে সহযোগিতা করেন
in the country
হত্যা মারামারি সংঘর্ষ এগুলো থেকে বিরত হন আমি নিশ্চিত যে আপনারা যদি
resort to violence.
আমার কথা মতো চলেন আমাদের সাথে যদি একসাথে যদি কাজ করি আমরা
We work together.
সুন্দর পরিণতির দিকে আমরা অগ্রসর
We can do a good result, but no violence. Please help us.
মারামারি করে এই সংঘাতের
No
মাধ্যমে
violence.
আমরা আর কিছু অ্যাচিভ করতে পারবো না আর কিছু আমরা
We will not achieve anything out of violence.
সুতরাং দয়া করে আপনারা
Therefore,
সমস্ত
Please
ধ্বংসযজ্ঞ সমস্ত
Please
অরাজকতা সমস্ত
end
সংঘর্ষ
this,
থেকে বিরত
all this anarchy,
এবং
all this
ইনশাআল্লাহ
destruction.
আমরা সবাই মিলে একটা সুন্দর ভবিষ্যতের দিকে আমরা
We
অগ্রসর
will
হব।
bring a good Bangladesh.
প্রতিটা হত্যার বিচার করা হবে প্রতিটা অন্যায়ের বিচার হবে
Everything will,
আমরা
everybody
যে
who has done wrong,
সমস্ত দলের
that will be,
দলের নেতা
that will, law will take its
নেতারা
action. We have
উপস্থিত
spoken to
ছিলেন।
all the parties.
আমি ওনাদের ইনভাইট করেছিলাম এখানে ওনারা ভেরি নাইস অফ देम যে ওনারা এসেছেন এন্ড আমরা একটা
All
সুন্দর
of them
আলোচনা
and
করেছি
come, we spoke
এবং
with all
এই
of them.
আলোচনাটা ফলপ্রসূ হবে বলে আমি মনে করছি এবং আমরা একটা সুন্দর একটা ইন্টারিম
And
গভর্নমেন্ট
we
ফর্ম করে
believe
আমরা
that
দেশ
this
পরিচালনা
problem
করব।
will get resolved.
মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রী
A government will be formed.
পদত্যাগ করেছেন এবং
The Prime Minister has
এখন একটা
resigned.
ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট ফর্ম করে আমরা আমাদের
Prime
কার্যক্রম
Minister Sheikh
পরিচালনা
Hasina
করব।
has resigned.
আপনারা একটু ধৈর্য ধরেন
Interim
আমাদের কিছু
government will
সময়
be
দেন
formed.
ইনশাআল্লাহ
Please have patience.
পদত্যাগ করেছেন এবং
She has
এখন একটা
resigned.
ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট ফর্ম করে আমরা আমাদের কার্যক্রম
One
পরিচালনা
interim
করব।
government will be formed.
আপনারা একটু ধৈর্য ধরেন
You
আমাদের
please
কিছু
have
সময় দেন
patience.
ইনশাআল্লাহ
Please give us
আমরা
time.
সবাই মিলে সমস্ত সমস্যার সমাধান করতে
We
সক্ষম হব
will all together,
আপনারা আর
we will solve
এই
the
সংঘাতের
problem.
পথে যাবেন না এবং
Don't
শান্তি
go
শৃঙ্খলার
in the
পথে
path of
ফেরত
violence.
চলে আসেন আমাদের দেশের অনেক ক্ষতি হচ্ছে অর্থ
huge
সম্পদের ক্ষতি হচ্ছে
Destruction has taken
জানের
place in Bangladesh.
লোকজন মারা যাচ্ছে
Lot
তো
of people
এগুলো
have
থেকে আপনারা
died.
বিরত হন এবং আমাদের সাহায্য
Please,
করেন আমি সমস্ত দায়িত্ব
Please
নিচ্ছি
don't do
আমাকে
any
সাহায্য করুন।
violence.
সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ
Please help us to
Allah
form a
Hafiz.
better Bangladesh.
দর্শক আপনারা নিশ্চয়ই সেই কাঙ্ক্ষিত দেখেছেন সেনাপ্রধান আরো কিছু বলার চেষ্টা করছেন আমরা আবারও শুনি
না এটা খুব আর্লি স্টেজ আমরা যাব মহামান্য রাষ্ট্রপতির সাথে যে আলাপ আলোচনার মাধ্যমে এটা আমরা
We
করব
will go and we will discuss it with the president.
আজকে এখানে জামাতের আমির ছিলেন আমাদের বিএনপির শীর্ষস্থানীয় নেতৃবৃন্দ এখানে ছিলেন
Yaman representative was there, BNP representative was there.
নেতৃবৃন্দ এখানে ছিলেন এবং সুশীল সমাজ এবং এখানে ডক্টর আসিফ নজরুল উনি নিজেও ছিলেন
And
এখানে
civil intellectual society was there.
ছাত্রদেরকে একটা সুন্দর বার্তাও দিয়েছেন এবং
They have given a good message to the students fraternity.
সবাই শ্রদ্ধা করে ছাত্ররা শ্রদ্ধা করে ওরা এই বার্তা শুনে তারা এই পরিস্থিতি নিয়ন্ত্রণে নিয়ে চলে আসবে এবং আমরা একটা সুন্দর
They will bring, everything will come into control. We'll make a good Bangladesh.
এখানে আওয়ামী লীগের কেউ ছিল না
There was nobody from Awami League. There was nobody from Awami League.
আমাদের এই সময় নাই এটা একটা বিশেষ একটা পরিস্থিতি। আমরা আজকে যে এই
This is a
পরিস্থিতি
special situation. We'll go and meet the president.
সেনাবাহিনী শান্তি শৃঙ্খলা বজায় রাখার কাজ চালিয়ে যাবে এবং
The army will maintain, will try to bring in peace,
রাজনৈতিক নেতৃবৃন্দ এবং রাজনৈতিক
and we'll take everybody's responsibility.
কর্মীদের দায়িত্ব হচ্ছে সেনাবাহিনীকে সাহায্য করা।
And the work of the political parties is to help the army.
আমাদের সাহায্য করেন।
And the media should also help the army.
পরিস্থিতি নিয়ন্ত্রণ সহজেই নিয়ে আসতে পারে।
We can bring the situation in control in Bangladesh.
যদি জিনিসটা শান্ত হয়ে যায় তাহলে আর কারফিউর কোনো প্রয়োজন নাই, কোনো জরুরি অবস্থার প্রয়োজন নাই, কোনো
get in control. So no emergency. We are not declaring any emergency. If things go under control,
পুলিশ কোনো গোলাগুলি করবে না।
police and army will not do excess.
আমি আশা করছি যে আমার এই বক্তব্যের পরে
I believe that after my
আমরা একটা সুন্দর পরিবেশের দিকে যাচ্ছি।
we will make a better day tomorrow.
আমরা এটা না, আমি আজকে রাতের মধ্যে একটা আমরা সলিউশনে যাওয়ার চেষ্টা করব, বাট আমাদের
By today night we will try to bring a solution.
আমরা এখনো এটা টু আর্লি, আমরা যাচ্ছি,
Too early to say. We are going.
রাষ্ট্রপতির সাথে আমরা একটা সুন্দর
We will
সলিউশন
talk to the honorable president.
পরিস্থিতি ছিল খুব কম, সময় খুব কম ছিল। আমি যাদেরকে পেয়েছি অনেকেই আমি বলেছি
Whoever I have got access to, I could call them.
দলের সমস্ত নেতৃস্থানীয় নেতৃবৃন্দরা তাদের সাথে আমি কথা বলেছি।
Lot of leaders have come.
ওনারা সবাই আমাদের এই প্রস্তাবে, এই যে আমরা যে আলোচনা করছি, সবাই এটাতে রাজি হয়েছে।
All of them have agreed to our proposal.
এখানে জামাতের আমির ছিলেন,
Jamaat representative Abid was there.
তারপরে ডক্টর আসিফ নজরুল ছিলেন,
Dr.
সবাই
Asif
মিলে
Nazrul
এবং সবাই
was there.
একমত পোষণ করেছি। এখন ছাত্রদের
We
কাজ
have,
হচ্ছে যে
we all have decided the same thing. Now the students should actually calm down.
আমি তো বলছি এতক্ষণ আমার এই বক্তব্যের ছাত্রদের প্রতিনিধি বলতে আমি এখন ওনাদের কাউকে পাইনি। আমি ডক্টর আসিফ নজরুলকে রিকোয়েস্ট করেছি।
We have not got any students representative, but we have requested Asif Nazrul because he's a professor.
আমি আশা করব যে এই ভিডিও মেসেজটাও
I hope that all messages will reach out to the students.
সবাই ভালো থাকেন, সবাই ভালো থাকেন, সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ। এখানে আপনারা যত প্রশ্ন করতে থাকবেন আমাকে দেরি করাবেন।
Don't delay me. The more you ask questions, the more
আমরা
it will be late to bring things under control.
আমরা একটা সলিউশনের মধ্যে আমরা যাব।
We will come with a solution.
সবাই যারা আন্দোলনরত, যারা ছাত্ররা আছেন, আন্দোলনরত যত লোকজন আছেন, দয়া করে ঘরে ফিরে যান। সবাই ভালো থাকেন।
People who are protesting, please go back to your home.
দর্শক, আপনারা এতক্ষণ সেনাপ্রধানের সেই কাঙ্ক্ষিত বক্তব্য, দীর্ঘ 16 বছর যে বক্তব্যের জন্য দেশের সাধারণ মানুষ, আপামর জনতা, প্রতিটি গণমাধ্যম এবং
Okay, so that's the big news amid these fast-paced developments that Bangladesh is now under army rule. What you were hearing is from the chief of the army, General Waqar Uzman, who has been appealing to the people that Sheikh Hasina has indeed stepped down. She has resigned, and in fact, he had been reiterating again and again, appealing for peace and calm, asking the protesters now to call off the agitation, and also promising that the only intent for the army of Bangladesh is to maintain peace and calm, to restore normalcy. Just take a look at the visuals right now. People celebrating. In fact, most of them now feeling a sense of victory. This has been an agitation that has been going on for months. First started by the students who had started their protest with a demand to abolish quotas and civil service jobs. And then it turned into a huge, a massive anti-government movement. But the big news is that right now Bangladesh is under army rule, the army-led interim government. He did make a point that he is speaking to all of the opposition parties, speaking to various stakeholders. They will also be approaching the president to decide on what is going to be the next course of action. But very important point that he made there, the army chief, is that the Awami League hasn't even responded. They are absolutely in silence. They haven't spoken to the army on the present situation, on the way things have turned up. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned. She has fled. Her whereabouts are still unknown. My colleague Siddhant is joining us now on the broadcast. We will try and establish contact with him. He's trying to get in the latest. But clearly, with the unrest intensifying and, the bloodbath that one had witnessed in Bangladesh, challenging the stability of Sheikh Hasina government, now it has come to a conclusion. Finally, the army has taken over with Sheikh Hasina fleeing, her stepping down, putting in her papers as well. And this is huge because Sheikh Hasina is a political phenomena. She is, in fact, someone who has been in power since 2009. After an earlier term from 1996 to 2001, she is in fact the longest serving female head of government. She, of course, is also credited with subduing, resurgent Islamists in the past, and also the military. Bangladesh is also known for its schools. But all of this now seems to be a thing of the past, with Sheikh Hasina now finally putting in her papers, resigning and fleeing. Siddhant is back with us. Siddhant, so Bangladesh is under army rule, with the chief appealing for peace and calm, saying that this is just an interim situation. He's going to be reaching out to the president. Do we know anything about where Sheikh Hasina is headed to?
Well, right now what Manoj Gupta is telling us is that her chopper has landed in Agartala. And this is something which Manoj Gupta has got confirmed from Tripura police. In fact, our other colleagues, Kamalika, who covers northeastern states of India, she is also confirming the same, that her chopper has landed in Agartala. And this piece of information they are getting from Tripura police. So this is the breaking input that we are getting for our viewers. Going back to the press conference that just got concluded, the press conference was done by the army chief in Bangladesh. One thing is for sure, right now Bangladesh has been taken over by army, but there are a lot of positive things that have been said by the army chief. A, he said that interim government will be formed. B, he also mentioned the other political parties, and he said that the consensus will be built and they all will go to the president to see that what could be the next course of action. He made appeal to the students to calm down. He also confirmed, perhaps the first time the confirmation coming from Bangladesh, that Sheikh Hasina has resigned. He also spoke about the unrest going on in the country, and how Bangladesh will be governed by the interim government. Right now, the country is in the army control, but army has given a lot of positive signals that soon the Bangladesh could also see government. So the process suggests that there is going to be an interim government. Then the government will call the fresh elections, and that how the elected government will come into action. So, but for now, the breaking input is that Hasina has landed in Agartala. Both Manoj Gupta and Kamalika are confirming this to us. There were a lot of unconfirmed reports also regarding she going to Finland, flying to Belarus. But now we can tell this to our viewers that she has come to Agartala, the eastern state of India. And we are trying to dig more details about where she will be staying, and who is facilitating her being in Agartala, because there's a lot of buzz in the Bangladeshi media that India is creating a safe passage for Sheikh Hasina to leave the country. India has created a safe passage for Sheikh Hasina to leave the country. But since she has come to India, which is perhaps the most safest place for her at this point of time, so it would really be interesting to see what is going to be her next move, whether she will be going to stay in India, or whether she'll be here for a while and then she'll be going to a safer lower place, which could be some country in Europe, surely not America, because everyone knows that America doesn't like her. So it would really be interesting to see. But for now, army rule in Bangladesh, process is on to form an interim government. Hasina's chopper has landed in India, and this we can confirm for our viewers here on CNN News 18. Back to you.
Oh, absolutely. Big news coming in that Sheikh Hasina has, or rather her chopper has landed now in Agartala. That's what we're getting to here. And as Siddhant was telling us that India is providing a safe passage, but we still don't have a confirmation as to where will be her final destination. Do remember that India does share a very good relationship and a cordial relationship with Bangladesh, with Sheikh Hasina, in fact, being recently in the capital to attend the G20 summit. So Sheikh Hasina right now is in Agartala. We are just waiting for more details as to what's going to be her next plan of action. Interestingly, there has been no official word from the Awami League, but we did hear from the army chief, who has confirmed that Sheikh Hasina, who has been in power for the longest time, has stepped down in the wake of those violent protests. And we're also seeing scenes of jubilation, of celebration, lakhs of people, in fact, now descending on the streets of Bangladesh, celebrating the news of her resignation, of her putting down her papers, of her calling it quits. They feel that today is they stand vindicated, that all of those months of protests has resulted in a positive outcome. We heard the chief appealing now to the people to call off their protest. In fact, just a short while ago, he has appealed for peace and calm. He has also said that he's going to be reaching out to the president. He's going to be speaking to other political parties as well. So, this is what has happened. All those protesters who had been calling for Sheikh Hasina to step down has finally sensed victory. The Students Against Discrimination group, which was at the forefront at last month's job quota protests and who had been leading the latest demonstrations as well, has also claimed victory with the news coming in of Sheikh Hasina stepping down. Siddhant, I wanted to understand from you, Sheikh Hasina herself had appealed for peace and calm. She said that the situation is getting out of control. She had appealed to the protesters that she will look into that entire ruling. She later on changed stance. She called those protesters terrorists. How did things go from bad to worse? Because she's someone who has been in power for so many years. Could there have been also some outside influence? There was suspicion that they could be the hand of another nation inflaming the rights and causing a situation like this.
Well, absolutely. Look, it was a very quick depart of Sheikh Hasina. Nobody expected this. In fact, if you had asked me yesterday, even I wouldn't have predicted her to resign so quickly. It means that the scenarios on ground were really challenging for her to remain in office. And in fact, some reports also tell us that the army very clearly told Sheikh Hasina to step down because there is no other way out. There were in the morning more than 10 lakh people on the streets of Dhaka. This is what eyewitnesses are telling us. Now, talking about the foreign influence, yes, Southeast Asia has perhaps become this hotspot for US, European countries, given it's a part of Indo-Pacific security framework. A lot of trade passes through Bay of Bengal and they're joining sea. There are multiple lines of sea lines of communications. Recent citing two examples. One, that the Teesta River project was not given to China. Sheikh Hasina was preferring India over China. That became a top story. And the second, would also like to draw viewers' attention to the way State Department was doing commentary during in the run-up to the elections in Bangladesh. In fact, there were strong words coming from the State Department. And if you remember, then Sheikh Hasina said that all this is being done by US because they wanted a naval base in Bangladesh, and which she was not allowing US to build. But then again, I would also like to draw attention to the images which came during the G20 summit in New Delhi. Sheikh Hasina could be seen with her daughter clicking pictures with President Biden. There were selfies and warm handshakes between the two sides. So Bangladesh was always on the edge. Perhaps Bangladesh is also the most trusted partner of India in Southeast Asia. Most of the India neighbors of India are not in a good shape economically. In fact, even due to the government change, their inclination have also changed. The government's inclinations have also changed. You take example of Maldives, you take example of Nepal. We saw what happened in Myanmar. Junta is controlling the country.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
all these countries matter to India when it comes to India's security framework. So right now also what is happening in Bangladesh is something which Indian government is looking at very, very carefully. Every single development is being noted, is being monitored by Indian government. Indians are friends with all political parties in Bangladesh. As India is also Bangladesh's most closest partner and ally. There are a lot of ongoing projects between India and Bangladesh, especially if we talk about rail network. Then we have the border area. There are a lot of development happening there. The port infrastructure is being built. Electricity is again a domain in which both countries are working very, very closely. So, so irrespective of who will come to power in Bangladesh, they have to sort of be in good terms with the Indian government. But Sheikh Hasina was more than what the other governments would be. And if you remember, when she came to India last month only, she not only met Prime Minister Modi, but she also met the leader of opposition, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, and the other leaders. So that is the level of understanding between Sheikh Hasina and Indian politicians, Indian side. And and this all had started from the freedom movement, and then most of the time they were in power. So the closeness between the two countries is something which is rock solid.
And she was someone who was determined to be in power, isn't it, Siddhant? Is it true that Bangladesh, according to reports, had taken an authoritarian turn under her party, the Awami League party? Because the last two elections were also condemned by the US, by the EU and others for what they called significant irregularities. Is that why things came to a boil? Is that why her people were completely fed up, calling her a dictator? Because clearly the entire nation has been on the brink with these anti-government protests becoming a people's uprising. It became some sort of a revolution.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, this is the reason that, as you mentioned before, that if you remember, when the first series of disruption took place, at that time, Sheikh Hasina said that those who are doing violence are Razakars. So Razakars were the people who supported Pakistan during the freedom struggle of Bangladesh. This time around, when the second series of disruption took place yesterday, day before yesterday, then she compared them with terrorists. So surely there was no midway that she could have taken as far as the disruption going on in Bangladesh is concerned. And situation has become really, really challenging for her. There was a complete clampdown on network. 4G services were not working. The social media platforms were not working. In fact, we as a journalist were unable to get the exact information on what is happening on ground, because most of our friends and sources back in Dhaka and other places in Bangladesh were unable to make calls to us, were unable to answer our calls. So situation was really, really challenging, and more than 100 deaths in 24 hours, perhaps the highest toll that Bangladesh is witnessing since its independence. There has been many protests, many coups in Bangladesh. In fact, there have been many unstable governments as well. But there has never been a day where 100 deaths have taken place because of clash between police and protesters. That has perhaps created a lot of pressure on Hasina, and people were roaming on the streets of Dhaka holding bamboo sticks in their hands, and ready to take on government, ready to take on army. The Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Medical College was attacked. Awami League offices were attacked in Dhaka and other places. Police station was set on fire. 14 cops lost their lives. So it's a complete chaos which Bangladesh witnessed in last 24 odd hours, or maybe more than that. And that became a reason for the exit of Sheikh Hasina. In fact, some confirmed sources have told us that Bangladeshi army told Hasina very, very clearly that she can resign and they will prepare a
On the
safe
earlier
passage
point,
for her
Siddhant, that you were
to
making,
go
that even these
wherever she.
developments caught you by surprise, her defiance initially, when she called these protesters traitors, terrorists, was a clear indication that she's not someone who's going to step down without putting up a fight. And some were worrying that there could perhaps be more bloodshed. Do you think perhaps that there was, the pressure from the army and ultimatum that was given that enough is enough? Because, as you rightly said, she's been accused of controlling all the state machinery, of oppressing people. That's what the protesters have been saying. Why is it that, she finally had no other choice but to flee the country and step down?
Yes, that's what I was pointing out, Avantika, that there were a lot of chaos, a lot of disruption on the streets, and there was no mid path for Sheikh Hasina. In fact, the real issue was anger against Hasina, the quota issue, maybe the inflation, unemployment. Other were the supporting issues, but the main issue was to remove Hasina, to bring down the government. In fact, after the Supreme Court reducing the percentage of quota from 30% to 5%, if you remember, we were expecting that the protesters will calm down, and things will get back to normal in Bangladesh. But yesterday, day before yesterday, in fact, the protesters and the Awami League members came face to face. That resulted in confrontation, and there were heavy police firing that was reported in Dhaka, and both sides attacked each other. This perhaps created a situation even more worse for Sheikh Hasina. And trust me, in last 48 hours, police, army, paramilitary had no control on various areas in Bangladesh. I mean, look at the visuals. The official residence of Prime Minister is being stormed by the protesters. They are easily climbing onto the walls and getting into the residence of Sheikh Hasina. Same way as the Awami League party offices, the state broadcasters building was attacked. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Medical College was attacked. So, lot of things has happened in last 24 to 48 hours, and no doubt about this, that Pakistan played a very, very important role, because the radical elements in Bangladesh have in fact are being used by Pakistan time and again, ISI Pakistan time and again, to create trouble for Bangladesh. And this time around, also some reports suggest that they played a vital role in fueling this protest. Then again, the opposition parties, they have been trying really hard to come to power from a very, very long time. So it was an opportunity for them also to overthrow Sheikh Hasina. As you rightly pointed out, that she ruled Bangladesh with a very, very strong leadership, and in fact, she was often accused of crushing the opposition, crushing the democratic voices, institutions. There is also human rights violation, corruption. That is perhaps what Hasina's critics have time and again have been speaking against her. In fact, there was also a lot of pressure on India time and again to speak against the human rights violation and the corruption issues surrounding Hasina's government. But since India and Bangladesh share a very, very special relationship, Sheikh Hasina is the most favorable politician in Bangladesh for India, and she enjoys bipartisan support. Whoever be in power in India, she enjoys trust and support from that government. This is the reason that India not once criticized Bangladesh openly.
Oh, that's true. Actually, that's true. But she might have enjoyed cordial relations with other nations, especially with India, but clearly not, enjoying the trust and the goodwill of her own people. Just take a look at the visuals. Just take a look at how these protesters have stormed the Prime Minister's residence. What we're also getting to hear is that the border is now on high alert. Bangladesh is now under army's rule, and therefore India has issued a high alert along the border. This after the Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina stepped down from a position amid ongoing unrest, bloodbath, and a lot of deaths, according to reports coming in. What we're getting to hear is that she did briefly stop at Agartala, but we're still waiting for more confirmation that where is going to be her final destination. She's reportedly traveling to India for a safe shelter, but that is still unconfirmed news. though she has made a landing at Agartala. But the big news is that now Bangladesh is under army rule. We just heard from the army chief as well, who has appealed for peace and calm. In fact, he is saying that the army is going to do everything in its capacity to ensure that there is proper governance in Bangladesh, which has been hit by very violent political demonstrations and unrest. So this is what we are getting to hear right now. The anti-government movement in Bangladesh, which now has plunged into a state of chaos after their prime minister, Sheikh Hasina, resigned and fled the nation. She is someone who has ruled since 2009, securing her fourth consecutive term in January through an election that was actually devoid of any genuine opposition. So that's also another question as to, will this now give, will this provide an opportunity to those opposition voices who have been silent for so long? Her administration did face a lot of accusations of misusing state institutions to consolidate her power. She's been accused of oppressing people, of suppressing dissent. In fact, the protesters had been calling her a dictator as well. And all of that now aside, the fact of the matter remains that Bangladesh today is under army's rule, and it's going to be the army that's going to be leading the interim government. Siddhant, are you hearing about the prospect of fresh elections? Could that scenario also play up in the coming days? Because the army chief did mention that he would be meeting with the president as well and apprise the president of the present turmoil that exists in the country.
Well, look, right now, since RB has done the press conference, so by that we can say that Bangladesh is under army rule, and army chief has done a meeting with all political parties in Bangladesh except Awami League. And in fact, there's an appeal which has come from the army chief that please calm down, don't indulge in violence. But all political parties, he means to say all stakeholders have come together to decide the future course of action. And he said that they met, and in fact, there will also be a delegation which will meet the president to find the future course of action. Because under the constitution, the president has authority after prime minister to take a decision. So in such scenario where prime minister has resigned, the country is without a prime minister, without an elected government, prime minister. So there needs to be somebody who has to step in. So it's president who has to decide. What the scenario is that he can dissolve the current government and he can call for the fresh elections. Until then, army can be the boss of Bangladesh. So this is how the scenario is looking like at this point in time. But situation is dynamic, as I have been saying since the very beginning. It may be that this assurance coming from army chief is only to contain the protest, to calm down the people of Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is on edge since last 48 hours. So it would really be interesting to see that which way Bangladesh goes, whether it's going to be a dictator country or whether it will go for fresh elections. And that would really be important for a country like India, because any which ways, if we talk about whole of the region of Antika, from Afghanistan to Myanmar to Sri Lanka to Bangladesh now, we have been seeing a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos, disruption in these countries, and these countries have direct implication on India's security framework. And this is the reason that it is a matter of a big concern for India, who comes to power next in Bangladesh, and which party or army is going to rule the country, because lot depends on that. Because any which ways, we have a Myanmar where junta is ruling the country. In fact, last visit of NSA Doval, the assurance was given by Myanmar that they will call for the fresh election soon. So any which way, the region is not stable, and this fresh disruption, turmoil in Bangladesh, if this constitutional crisis continues, then it would be a big concern for Indian policymakers.
How powerful is the Bangladesh army? Because for the longest time, they have kept a distance. They've not really been very involved in the day-to-day functioning. They've taken a less of an overt role in public affairs, choosing more to exercise their influence from behind the scenes. But now clearly they're the ones who are going to be ruling, at least temporarily, till the next decision or the next action is taken for the people of Bangladesh. Siddhant, can you hear me? Okay, so we will get back to Siddhant in just a bit. A quick recap for the benefit of our viewers who have just tuned in. What you're seeing on your screens right now are, fast-paced developments coming in from Bangladesh. The people of Bangladesh today standing victorious, vindicated after months of demonstrators protesting against the Sheikh Hasina government. And because of that, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has today resigned and fled the country, as protesters were even seen storming her residential palace. And we're going to be showing you those visuals. What you're seeing on your right-hand side of this man on her bed, the protesters storming the palace, rejoicing, celebrating over the news that Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned and that she's left the country. The army chief, Wakir uz Zaman, has confirmed that the army will be taking over, adding that an interim government is going to be taking over power as well. But the army is now in clear control of the situation. The chief also saying that he's going to apprise the president of the present scenario. Protesters stormed her official residence as soon as the news came in that the prime minister has stepped down and that she has fled the country. In fact, the images that you're seeing shows hundreds of people getting into the building, storming their way through, ransacking and taking away, essential commodities as well. Siddhant is back with us. Siddhant, I wanted to understand from you how strong, how powerful is the army in Bangladesh, because for years together they've taken a less overt role in public affairs, choosing more often to exercise their influence from behind the scenes. But now that they're in control, how does the situation change from here on for the nation and for the people? Oh dear, we're just having a bit of an issue there with Siddhant's audio. We'll try and fix that. But what you're seeing on your screens are, the varying images coming in of jubilation, of celebration from the people of Bangladesh following the reports of their prime minister, who has ruled for 15 long years, finally stepping down, resigning and fleeing the nation. Now, she did make a brief stop here in India, in Agartala, but we're still waiting for a confirmation as to what is going to be her final destination. But big news coming in. There is no confirmation, no official confirmation, at least, about Sheikh Hasina's whereabouts. This is all reports coming in, but she's the prime minister who has resigned, and she has already left Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, on a helicopter. What we're also getting to know is that she's being accompanied by her sister, but this is unconfirmed report from various sources. So this is big news coming in amid the present turmoil. The army chief just addressed the nation a short while ago. He, in fact, has appealed for peace and calm. This is the army chief who you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screens. He said that the army will be taking control of the situation, at least till the next course of action is decided. Siddhant, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Bangladesh military and just how strong is Bangladesh's army. They've known to be staging coups in the past, but over the years, they've taken a very less overt role in public affairs. Will that change now?
Well, yes. In fact, some of the experts and geopolitical experts are telling us that Bangladesh has come a long way. And it would really be difficult for army, even if they control Bangladesh, if they take power, then they won't be able to sustain for a longer time because a dictatorship won't work in Bangladesh anymore. So that's the opinion that we're getting from experts. But right now we have a very, very interesting news piece. In fact, unconfirmed reports. One is that the chopper of Sheikh Hasina has landed in Tripura. And we have broken that story for our viewers. Now, in fact, we are getting to know that this Bangladesh Air Force flight is currently flying over Dhanbad. and it is in Indian airspace. So there is a lot of speculation because till now we have only received information that Sheikh Hasina has landed in Tripura. We don't have any image of photograph or a video of her getting down from chopper in Tripura, or don't know the exact location of her in India. So maybe the speculation is that she can come directly to New Delhi, and since this Bangladesh Air Force flight is flying over Dhanbad, then there's a lot of speculation that why this Air Force flight is an Indian flying space, Indian airspace. So a lot of speculations are doing the rounds. In fact, every moment we are trying to get in touch with the people sitting in Indian security setup to dig more about what is happening in Bangladesh and what's going to be the next location for Sheikh Hasina and what's going to be her next move. In fact, some reports are telling us that she may go to London. So that is also something which some section of media is talking about. So Belarus, Finland, London, Agartala, we have discussed many locations since last 40 to 45 minutes. But since situation, the developments are taking place with so much speed, so it gets very difficult to speak to people in Bangladesh, then corroborate it with the people here in the Indian security setup. But what has happened in Bangladesh is unprecedented, and nobody had ever expected this to happen so quickly, so sudden, because 100 people lost lives in last 24 hours in Bangladesh, and Sheikh Hasina decides to resign. Army takes over. Army promises interim government. Some unexpected scenarios have taken place in Bangladesh, and we were expecting that this time again the Hasina would manage to contain the protesters, but since it escalated. It escalated and it spread like a wildfire all across Bangladesh. More than 55 districts were affected. Police stations were
okay. Just stay on with me, Siddhant. Hurshid Wasim joins us now from Bangladesh. She's a senior journalist. Thank you so much for speaking to CNN News 18. We are tracking the developments very closely. What is the latest? We heard from your army chief, who has confirmed that the army will take over. Bangladesh will be now under army's control. But what's the latest? And also, if you have any information on Sheikh Hasina, where is she headed to?
We heard she is heading to India. First, she will go to Agartala, which is in West Bengal, and then she will move to Delhi. That's what we heard. We haven't seen her flight. We have got a news movie clip or small clip, which is around 15 to 18 seconds, which shows that she's getting out of helicopter or she is getting into the helicopter.
Yes.
So, but it's confirmed she left the country, and it's confirmed she's heading towards Delhi. So the army chief, who was had a brief speech only 30 minutes ago, he clearly says that he had a discussion with all the political parties apart from our league, and they had a discussion how the interim government will form. And now after this interim government will form, and he confirmed that whatever will happen, there are around 200 plus people been killed or shot on sight or been murdered or died during the student protest, which was for the quota. If you understand quota, it is like a reserve system in the government job, which means if you are a freedom fighter, 20% or 50% of the total number of the people who will be getting jobs will be reserved from those people. So that protest started in 2018, which somehow went up to till today, and they were given some resolution that this is what we need to be,
okay,
and stuff like that. But she was not listening to it. She was rather
yes.
She was very, very harsh, and as well as her home minister, her IGP of police, and other people. They were shooting, and her student leagues, the allies. They were harassing people. They were torturing people. They were physically abusing people, so which turned into a big mob,
right?
Which started around early last month.
Okay.
And in the mid of the month, they say that okay, whatever is done now. Now you ratify the law and you do it. But she ratified the law. By the time around 15 or 20 people died, which basically throughout the country made a huge mob that she is listening to the Gen Z generation. And these people, they were taken by some, I don't know, who are the people, you understand, and they were given back that, okay, they made some discussion, then they're about to close the deal, but which is not. So, yeah, how it is. And now today, the army chief came up.
Yes.
He clearly said he wouldn't do anything illegal.
Yes.
And his professional career says he's quite professional about his career, and he is quite a law-abiding person.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting point that you mentioned about the army chief of Bangladesh, that he's a thorough professional and he's a law-abiding citizen. And that's something, in fact, he had been, that was very reflective in the statement that he made to his country, appealing for peace and calm, and also requesting the protesters to call off their protests. Mr. Hasib, just stay on with me. Former Foreign Secretary of India, Mr. Harsh Shringla, has also given his reaction on the present situation in Bangladesh. We'll just listen to him and come back to you.
To avoid further bloodshed, because it was clear that had the status quo remained, it would have resulted in significant uptake in the violence. Ultimately, it's in our interest to ensure that there is peace and stability in our neighboring countries. So, I think those developments, recent developments, have played out in a practical manner, and we will be engaged. And just answering last part of your question, I have no doubt that our interlocutors will be engaged with the concerned people in Bangladesh, and that we will ensure that our larger interests are protected, and that we will work constructively to ensure that there is peace and stability in Bangladesh.
Mr. Shringla, you also served as a foreign secretary. Under such circumstances, do you think now, as you said, that we are going to engage through our interlocutors or directly? So how easy will it be for India now? Because India has backed Sheikh Hasina, and we had a wonderful chemistry between the two democracies. We have seen de-radicalization. We have seen, people, terrorist organizations being called out there and caught and handed over to India. We have seen a massive drop in the smuggling. So how is now India going to cope with these factors, with the new establishment or the interim arrangement or the army coup, whatever you can say?
So, for us, it's very important to be engaged with Bangladesh. We had a very, very good relationship with the government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. There's been a huge amount of development, positive developments that have been possible under her government. But at the end of the day, the relationship is based on a people-to-people contact. There's a strong people-to-people connect. We have strong ties across the board in a multifaceted manner in Bangladesh's society, and we will engage any political or any other organization that we need to in the furtherance of our larger interests and those of Bangladesh.
Sir, but I was reading some of the articles in the Bangladeshi press. They are saying that it is Sheikh Hasina's closeness with India and anti-India sentiments which has also contributed to the situation.
Well, I mean, there will always be people who will be inimical to our interests, and these are people who trace their origin back to the time that they backed Pakistan in 1971, and their descendants continue to back radical and fundamental interests in that country. I don't think we need to be concerned about that strain of thought. The average Bangladeshi knows that India has always acted in the best interest of Bangladesh. Whatever we have done in our mutual benefit of both our countries, and we will continue to do that. I mean, it's an exceptional relationship where I think India has assisted Bangladesh and Bangladesh has assisted India. And I think if the country is to progress and if we have to move forward, I think that relationship of mutual benefit, a relationship that seeks to cooperate constructively rather than to confront each other, I think will work in the best interest of the people of both our countries.
Mr. Shringla, my last question. Do you think Ms. Hasina will be given shelter in India, or she'll be staying here, or she'll be fleeing to some other country?
It's difficult for me to say. I mean, keep in mind that Sheikh Hasina was here right from 1975 till about 1979 or so, when she went back to her country after the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, her father. So India never denied, safe haven or asylum to those.
দেশে একটা ক্রান্তিকাল চলছে। আমি সমস্ত রাজনৈতিক দলের নেতৃবৃন্দকে এখানে আমন্ত্রণ করেছিলাম, ওনারা এখানে এসেছেন। আমরা একটা সুন্দর আলোচনা করেছি। সেখানে আমরা সিদ্ধান্ত নিয়েছি যে একটা ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট আমরা ফর্ম করব এবং ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্টের মাধ্যমে এদেশের সমস্ত কার্যকলাপ চলবে এবং দেশে একটা শান্তি শৃঙ্খলা ফিরিয়ে নিয়ে আসবো। আপনারা আমার সাথে সহযোগিতা করেন, দয়া করে আর এই ভাঙচুর, হত্যা, মারামারি, সংঘর্ষ এগুলো থেকে বিরত হন। মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রীও পদত্যাগ করেছেন এবং এখন একটা ইন্টারিম গভর্নমেন্ট ফর্ম করে আমরা আমাদের কার্যক্রম পরিচালনা করব।
Okay, so that was the army chief who had spoken to the nation a short while back in the backdrop of fresh violence in Bangladesh and Sheikh Hasina's fleeing off the country after she resigned. So that's what the army chief has said, that now the army is going to be taking over. India, in fact, is also taking all precautions. The Border Security Force has issued a very high alert across the Indo-Bangladesh border in response to the ongoing developments in our neighboring country. The Ministry of External Affairs has also advised its citizens to avoid traveling to Bangladesh and has also sent out advice to those who are presently residing in Bangladesh to exercise extreme caution, restrict their movements, remain in contact with the High Commission in Dhaka. KP Fabian, former diplomat, joins us now on the broadcast. Sir, thanks so much for speaking to CNN News 18. Huge developments, fast-paced developments happening in Bangladesh with the Prime Minister finally stepping down after a long reign. What do you make of the present situation and Bangladesh now being under the army's control?
Well, the situation is serious, and while I personally do not believe that the army is taking over the control will sort of lead to the resolution of the crisis. You know, roots of the crisis. After, what are the roots of the crisis? One is that there is a general impression that the last general election was rigged. Two, there is unemployment for the youth. And in that context, a reservation was made for the children of those who fought in 1931. But next is corruption, really big. An impression that there is overall corruption, well, not necessarily with Sheikh Hasina herself, but her entourage, those who are, you know, and close to her. So this has to be, and my view is that now that the military has taken over, as soon as possible, there should be a proper election. As soon as possible, not tomorrow, as soon as possible.
So do you foresee fresh elections happening? And what about the Awami League? Do you agree that the chaos that has unfolded in the country is largely because of Sheikh Hasina's own doing and the makings of the Awami League?
Yes, it is. You know, she was not at all popular. And you know that the opposition parties had boycotted the election.
Yes.
So the last election was not a proper election. Now we need a proper election where, I mean, like Sheikh Hasina's party also contest. You know, it will be wrong to disqualify her or her party. And but as I said, you know, you cannot be held tomorrow. We need a little time to cool things. You know what I mean. So let us hope that Bangladesh will, people and those who are in power, maturity to get out of the crisis rather than deepen it.
So why do you think, the situation has come down to this with the army taking over? Because Sheikh Hasina is someone who has been the longest serving female head of the government. I'm sure she's faced, so many challenges in the past as well. Her own father being executed and family members by the army in a military who she's someone who's known for her belligerence, for her defiance, not willing to step down without giving a fight. Why do you think that, things got out so bad for her that she was left with no other choice but to flee the country?
So, when Sheikh Hasina visited China, well, she didn't get what she wanted, and she cut short her visit and came. So in other words, probably the Chinese were keeping in touch with the ground realities, and they probably thought that she was on her way out.
All right, Mr. Fabian, thank you so much for your time. So that's the latest that we're getting in right now on the situation that prevails. There is still no confirmation as to where Sheikh Hasina is presently. Yes, she did make a brief stopover in India. According to unconfirmed reports, she's on her way to London. But we are still trying to get more information on that. Clearly, in the backdrop of fresh violence, the Awami League Supremo Sheikh Hasina finally putting in her papers, resigning as the Prime Minister of the country, according to the Bangladesh High Commission. And now, in a televised address to the nation, the Army Chief, Wakir-uz-Zaman, has said that the military will form the interim government. What you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screens is the Army Chief, who had just spoken to the nation a short while ago, appealing for peace, appealing for calm. And most interestingly, just after the announcement of her resignation, one could see so many people on the streets, lack of people pouring out on the streets of Dhaka as the news spread that their Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, has decided to step down, resign, and flee the nation. In fact, people could be seen celebrating, rejoicing on the streets after the entire nation has seen weeks of bloodbath, turmoil, and unrest across the country. So that's the latest. Sheikh Hasina has left Bangladesh. She has resigned. She's no longer the Prime Minister. No official word from the Awami League. So there's going to be a caretaker government under the control of the army. It's going to be led by the country's military, which is going to be taking over. The Army Chief of Bangladesh also confirming the same and saying that the president will be apprised as well. Indian security agencies are also monitoring the C-130 aircraft with the call signs since 10 kilometers from the Indian border with Bangladesh. It's heading towards Delhi. What we're getting to hear, it's believed that Sheikh Hasina and a few members of her entourage are on board that plane. So there is still no confirmation as to where exactly Sheikh Hasina is, but there are reports that she is headed to the national capital, given, the relationship that India has had with Bangladesh. It's been very cordial. It's been very peaceful. So the news is that her plane is headed to the national capital, to Delhi. Siddhant is with me for the very latest on this. Siddhant, over to you. Give us more details. A lot of reports coming in that she perhaps is on her way to London or she's headed to the national capital. What are you hearing from your sources?
Well, right now we can confirm this, that the people in the Indian security setup are monitoring the C-130 aircraft of Bangladeshi Air Force. Right now flying in Indian airspace, and in fact, some are saying that this is a routine protocol. It will be whenever there's an airplane or a defense plane of any other country flying in Indian airspace, then ATC usually monitors the movement of that plane. In fact, some are also saying that the government doesn't have any information regarding the person inside the aircraft, but it could be some sort of strategy also. This plane has crossed West Bengal and entered in the airspace of Dhanbad and is heading towards New Delhi. This is what we can tell our viewers. Right now, local authorities at Palam Airport at Delhi International Airport have no clue about any aircraft landing landing of any aircraft in New Delhi. There are also some reports telling us that she can likely go to London. So London could be her next destination, as it is not the policy of India to give any kind of asylum or protection to any person in exile or coming from the circumstances that Sheikh Hasina is coming from right now. So it would really be interesting to see at what is going to be the government of India's response. We're still trying to take the maximum we can from people in government who are monitoring the situation. Right now, we can confirm this for our viewers that Indian government have taken note of this aircraft, which belong to the Air Force of Bangladesh.
Okay, Siddhant, just kindly stay on with
is
me. Senior journalist from Bangladesh, Mr. Hasib, is also joining us. Mr. Hasib, can you just tell us a little bit more about Sheikh Hasina? There are a lot of unconfirmed reports that she's going to be headed to India. She did make a brief stopover in India, but now she's headed to the national capital. There are also reports coming in that she perhaps is on her way finally to London, which is going to be her ultimate destination. What is the information that you have, and how are the people in Bangladesh now reacting to this huge development that has happened in their country with the Prime Minister stepping down and then fleeing the nation?
Well, as if you remember what happened in Sri Lanka, they went to the king's place.
Yes,
they have
yes.
taken bed sheet, pillows, chicken, fridge, AC, TV, everything. That's what's going on in Bangladesh. That's the that's the first time after our independence in last 53 years. We haven't seen even if when her father been assassinated, no one has taken a single furniture from the place. But this time, uh, she made upset people so much that every single people who were in the street went to her home and taken everything. And the people are having joyous rallies in the street. But some people are doing vandalism. So this happens so obviously when we don't have a head of state, so we don't have a law enforcement security to really look after for the time being unless new interim government takes place, which is been declared by the army chief, and probably he's going to meet the president. And after that, probably the names of the people who will be looking at the issues of the Indian government will be declared. But for the time being, we have to wait. And by this time, the vandalism have been done. And in front of our office, Channel 24, where I work as a diplomatic correspondent, so there is a Dhaka district Awami League office, which has been burned, which is a huge office, which is one of the second political base in Bangladesh of Awami League, which is burned, turned into ashes, and our office been vandalized. And they were trying to people who are angry with the media because they thought and they believe that we are uh, not able to broadcast what they've been calling for so long. But it's we had other things to deal up because we have to survive. Being a media person, you understand where the pressure comes from and how does it feel. So they're destroying few things in the street, and I'm not sure about she will go for London, but yes, there's the historical things that says like her father, like the opposition leader's son, Khaled Zia's son, Tariq Zia, he's also in London. Everybody from Bangladesh, so from the top two families and the top two parties, they love to be in London. I don't know how they fall in love with this place, but yeah, as I haven't been there.
Right, Mr. Seep, just stay on with me. I did catch that sarcasm there. Just kindly stay on with me. Let's just show you the map also as to where her plane is headed to. Now, there is still no official confirmation as to where Sheikh Hasina is ultimately going to be living. As Mr. Hasib is saying, according to unconfirmed reports, her flight is on its way to the United Kingdom, to London. She did make a brief stopover to in India, rather. And this is what we're showing you, that flight tracker, just to see. Now, there are also reports coming in that she just might make a brief stop in the national capital in Delhi as well. So this is what we are tracking as of now. Mr. Hasib, I wanted to ask you, while you were speaking, I was thinking that here's this lady who's been the longest serving female head of government. Yes, her 15 years of power has been rife with acquisitions of, suppressing dissent, crushing the opposition figures and her critics. But she's someone who has been able to fight all of that. She's risen above all of that. Why do you think that things have gone so bad for her that she was left with no other choice but to resign and, leave Bangladesh in the way that she has?
That's a very tough question to answer. How can I answer? Okay, let me try. So she's a lady who always been articulated as Iron Lady, and she came to the power while the BNP had uh, lots of bad issues, like they have trafficked money, illegal practices, blah blah blah. And now she got all these complaints, mostly suppressing people, suppressing the opposition, suppressing her critics. And a lot of people say she has gone this far with the support of Indian government. So as I don't have any proof to talk about it, so I rather push it there. Uh, and her people, her allies, especially her student leagues like Chhatra League, like Jubu League, they have started taking chandas. You understand chandas? From street to the higher level. Everybody is bound to do that. Even if during the coronas, there were a lot of complaints against this and corruption, and there are some character issues as well. Especially one of the executive head of Bangladesh, his mood image has been flashing around, moving around here and there, and who has taken all these student protesters at his place and made him bound to talk to them, and the people asked him to leave, and she looked at it, she didn't do anything. So one thing is how people is doing bad things, and the other thing is when there is a complaint, she listened to that and she doesn't do anything. That person being promoted always, either politically or in the administration, wherever. Say for example, the present IGP, police
Okay.
IGP, he's been sanctioned because of human rights issue from the US Treasury, and it was declared in 2021 on 10th December. And even if been he sanctioned, he became the IGP. So some people say that's a reward post. So how come you make someone IGP who will become US sanctioned, because Bangladesh doesn't have any
Right.
any opportunity to recover it back. So and you understand the US sanction and the impact of it. So there are so many complaints and people are basically upset. For example, the internet was off, and for these protests, these are students. Okay, they don't have any political ideology. These are Gen Z. Okay, they
That's
don't
true.
like BNP. They don't like Army League. They don't like even me. They one of the people in the street when I was covering the mob early back in 10 to 15 days ago, 18th or 17th July. He picked up my collar and says, "You are a dalal. You don't show whatever you say. Why do you come to even in the street? Rather, you can go and have booze." So that's how they deal it, because the thing we don't show their images, we don't show their footages, we don't show their comments.
Right.
And I wish I can tell them my hands are tied. I wish I can tell them.
No, you're right. These
Uh,
anti-government protests that one got to see in Bangladesh, Mr. Seeb, is indeed a people's uprising revolution of sorts. And we saw those celebrations after the news came in that Sheikh Hasina has resigned and fled the country. The question is, what next now? What do you think happens next? Tell us a little bit more about the army's role now as it tries to, put the house in order. And what about the main opposition party, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party? Do you foresee fresh elections happening?
well, the BNP leader Khalida Zia is in house arrest. I'm not sure whether she can get over these accusations, and then she needs to get out of this if she wants to have a part in election. So army chief came up and says he doesn't want to hold the power for very long or stuff like that, and he clearly mentioned it about he mentioned that injustice, all the injustice will be given uh, whatever it is needed. People who are murdered, all these murders will be properly investigated. They ask politely, calm down for the people, and he will see probably the president and will make an interim government. Now, the interim government will talk about interim government probably talk about how the government will form, when the election will take place, who are the people who will look at home ministerial issue, foreign ministerial issue, election issue. And we have this cartel government system which has been abolished by the Army League which has been abolished by Sheikh Hasina. Though she came by the fair election of caretaker, which took place in 2008. Okay? And then she abolished that clause from the constitution. And she said, no, it cannot be done. It's unconstitutional because third party cannot take the government. So this is something very new we have seen in 2008. And then, so probably part of the constitution may come back if the judges thinks, if the appellate division thinks, because all the appellate division people, all the Supreme Court people, all the judges, they had to follow her. There was no chance without following her. Even I can tell you, which was the international news, the ex Chief Justice of Bangladesh had to get out of country, like the way she got out right now, back in 2 or 3 or 5 years back. And probably there was some misunderstanding, or probably he didn't listen to her, so he had to leave. He lives in USA right now with political asylum. But think of India if the chief justice is living in other country with a political asylum. How does it sound? So yeah, that's what happened. So this all this, misleading stuff, operations, price hike, overprice of food, oil, transport, electricity, gas, every utility is named, corruption. This is how it ended up. And I feel very sorry for her, because she's the daughter of the father of the nation. Because I have a lot of respect for the father of the nation. Doesn't matter what her daughter did. Every single individual is an individual. And I really, that makes me upset, because everybody loves their father of the nation. They're beyond politics. And she tried to keep him within the politics, which is another upsetting thing. That if you talk against us, you are the opposition, which means you are a Pakistan follower, which means you are BNP and Jamaat. I mean, that's not the way.
That's true. I also wanted to know from you how the army has been reacting to these weeks of protests. Now, they were also deployed on the streets to try and crack down to clear the protesters. But is it true that there was, some discomfort within the ranks, that even the army was very uncomfortable with the way things were, and that perhaps there could be some pressure on Sheikh Hasina, with the army giving that ultimatum to her? Now, I do understand this is not really a traditional coup, and that the army chief has promised to the people that the government will be given back once things settle. But what is going to be the army's role now that it's going to be handling things temporarily?
So, first of all, it's not a coup. That's an absolute dictator's fault.
Absolutely. It isn't one.
Secondly, yeah. And secondly, the army was not in a comfort position. I'm not sure about ranks, because I don't have sources. So where I don't have sources, I don't talk about those. But there was absolute discomfort, and people were really happy in the streets when they have seen army, because police was supporting Jubilees or Chhatra Leagues, which is Army League, student body, or
Yes.
youngest youth body allies, and they were firing. Even 13 police yesterday died, which is rare in Bangladesh. In one police station out of Dhaka, which is in Sirajganj, and that is a minority area where 13 police been murdered. So it's her. She should be accused for that, because she made this unrest, and her policeman died, and she didn't even bother. So yeah. So what I think is. What should I say?
No, so are you saying that the
They
army
will.
will
They will.
only help, in this transition period with a caretaker government?
I'm not sure about the caretaker government, but I'm quite sure about they will help the government to make it up. I'm not quite aware of the also constitutional issues and tough uh, constitutional issues and tough laws. So yeah, so I'm not sure about that part, so I better not talk about it. I'm sorry.
And how are the people reacting, Mr. Hasib? We saw scenes of jubilation, celebration, relief. I mean, it was just amazing to see lakhs of people pouring out on the streets, rejoicing the news. It seems that they were so relieved, and they had been so frustrated for months along, and finally their dreams have come true. Tell us a little bit more on, the scenes that you're capturing, that you're witnessing across Bangladesh, not just in Dhaka, but across the country.
You have seen it. Images is there, so nothing to explain more.
That's true. I mean, there's a sense of relief. But what about the president? Have you heard now from, what happens next? We do know that the army is going to be in charge, at least for now, till the time things settle down. But what do you foresee happening in the next few days or this week?
Wait, I really gotta go.
All right, Mr. Steve. All right, I understand. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for speaking to us. Thanks for getting us a sense of the situation on the ground. What you're seeing on your screens right now are, three visuals. We're showing you that of the brief stopover that was apparently made by Sheikh Hasina. She did stop down in Delhi, not in Delhi, in Agartala, in India. And there were also reports that she could perhaps land in Delhi, but we're still getting no confirmation on that bit of news just as yet. There are rumors that she perhaps is on her way to the United Kingdom. And what you're seeing on the other side of the screens is the reaction of the people, just how happy they are, just how relieved they are. They feel a huge sense of vindication. They feel that their protest has finally yielded to a positive outcome with Sheikh Hasina stepping down, and Sheikh Hasina also saying that, and her fleeing the nation as well. Now, what we're showing you on the extreme right is the tracker. It's what we are seeing her plane, where exactly it's going, and where perhaps it's going to finally land, because there's been a lot of speculation as to where exactly is going to be her final destination, with reports coming in that perhaps she's going to take refuge in the United Kingdom, that her final destination, her final stop is going to be London. Okay. Abhishek joins us now for the latest as well. Abhishek, over to you. What is it that you're hearing from your sources about Sheikh Hasina? Where exactly is she headed to?
Well, as of now, it seems that the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, is heading to London, and this is what our sources have told us. There have been multiple speculative reporting that a plane, a heavy plane, is around the borders of India and Bangladesh, and there have been some reporting also that suggests that it is very much moving inside Indian territory and going somewhere around the eastern state. And then apparently it was also reported that Sheikh Hasina may land in Kolkata or Agartala, but these all have not been confirmed yet by any official sources. We do have been tracking this information, but the finality of her journey from Dhaka seems to be eventually going towards London. And as of now, it seems that she will not be staying in India, and she will be heading to London in all possibilities.
Okay, interesting, Abhishek. Thanks so much for that information. But we'll keep coming back to you. Mazhar Khan, senior Bangladesh journalist, also joins us now on the broadcast. Mr. Khan, thanks so much for speaking to CNN News 18. Such fast-paced developments happening in Bangladesh. We're getting all sorts of news and reports on just where Sheikh Hasina is headed to. There have been reports that she made a brief stop in India, and now she's perhaps headed to the United Kingdom. But give us a sense of the situation in Bangladesh after the dramatic turn of events, and what are you hearing from the army as well?
Basically, army have started several discussions with the major political parties of Bangladesh, and they are trying to form an interim government which will be running the next government of Bangladesh. And the whole process will take few times, and that will be approval will be given by the President of Bangladesh. Things are happening like that to handle the situation right now in Bangladesh is totally under control of our army. They are trying to make an amicable situation, and the Chief of Army Staff have committed that all the demands of the protesters will be taken care, and he urged to them to stop all kind of violence and demolition they are doing across the country. So we hope that within a very short span of time, the whole situation of the country will be under control.
Okay, Mr. Khan, what about those protesters or those people who had stormed the Prime Minister's official residence in Dhaka after the news of her leaving the country emerged? Have they been now evicted? Have they been brought out? Is there a sense of normalcy now?
Basically, as you know, across the world, when there is such kind of situation arises, few people who are basically behind all these loots and others. Originally, the protesters always said that they are not involved in any kind of demolition or any kind of, embracing the government establishment and others. The same way, the people who are taking away the things from Awami League office and PMO's residents, they can't be the real protesters. So they are people taking advantage out of this demonstration.
Right, and we're just showing a picture, Mr. Khan, that one picture of Sheikh Hasina just before she announced, or perhaps after she announced her resignation. The Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has now resigned from her post, and the army flight that she's traveling has been seen in Indian airspace, which has triggered a lot of speculation whether at all she is going to be making a brief stop in the national capital in Delhi, whether she's going to be staying in Delhi. Now, there is a lot of unconfirmed information coming in that she perhaps is going to be headed to the United Kingdom. That's her final destination. But yet again, we don't have confirmation on the same. But there are reports coming in that Sheikh Hasina is on her way to London. That's where she's going to be seeking refuge. But the army chief held a press conference confirming her resignation. He has said that an interim government is going to be formed to run the country, and that the country's economy has also suffered massively as a result of the turmoil, the bloodshed, and the very violent protests by the students who had been protesting against the government's quota. So this is that picture. This is that one picture of Sheikh Hasina when she finally put in her papers, when she finally resigned, stepped down, and immediately she fled the nation. And then there was scenes of jubilation, celebration with lakhs of people, in fact, descending on the roads of Dhaka, celebrating the news of Sheikh Hasina's resignation, of her deciding to step down. So that's the latest that we're getting in right now. Mr. Khan, I wanted to ask you about the Awami League. Has there been any official reaction from them? Where are all the leaders of her party, and what about the opposition as well?
Before answering this, I would like to add
yes, please
a
go
few
ahead.
words. The history of Bangladesh is very much black shaded in August. August is the month when most of the severe issues happened. On 15th September 1975, the father of the nation was assassinated along with his full family. Later on, 21st August, there was a grenade attack on Awami League. Awami League is very much connected with August, I guess. And on the same month, this public protest and severe issues took place in this country. So, if you say that she fled because there might be some intelligence report from army and other intelligence department might have some information that her life is also at risk. Something would be like that. That's why she had to leave. And regarding the picture of Sheikh Hasina was taken off each and every time the government changes in our country, such things used to take place.
Yes.
Like removing the picture of the former party chief and others. So these are common phenomena across the world. You see that whenever a party changes, their leaders' pictures are thrown away. Now, the good thing is that army is trying to solve the whole situation and take control on the whole instability with the help of the other political parties,
right.
other major political parties and opinion leaders. They are not taking over the power. Nah?
Yes.
This is a very positive
yes,
thing.
That's true. It's interesting, actually. Mr. Khan, just kindly stay on with me. Tawfiq Imroz Khalidi, editor-in-chief of News 24, is also joining us. Mr. Khalidi, your sense on the situation in Bangladesh and the developments that one has witnessed in just the last few hours. So much has changed in such little time. So what one can expect next? What are you hearing from your sources, and what is going to be the role of the army as it manages to bring things under control?
Army chief just spoke to the media for a few minutes. It was not a long speech.
Yes, we heard that.
Had a meeting with some political leaders. Suddenly these political leaders have become very important, which is very interesting. And what he said, basically, that he assured people that he was not exactly taking over in the sense of that he's declaring martial law. What he said is that, trust me, have confidence in me, I will protect the lives and property. We'll try to do something. We're going to meet the president and we'll install interim government acceptable to all parties, all the stakeholders, and hasn't said clearly that they're going to declare martial law. Probably they will wait till tonight, I mean late in the night or maybe tomorrow morning to make a decision on that, whether there be martial law. If the situation gets normal, I mean the protesters go home and they stop vandalizing, whatever. They have chosen various targets. And they have vandalized the Prime Minister's official home. They vandalized the Prime Minister's and they've also vandalized Bangabandhu Museum which was set up in his home where he was martyred along with his family. And they have vandalized some other iconic important structures that were built to honor Sheikh Hasina's father. So these things have to stop, I think. And they're also, trying to stop people. And I just heard from a colleague who's at the airport that some activists have stormed the airport building trying to find, anyone from her party or or ministers other who are leaving the country. In fact, in the last 48 hours or so, a lot of people have already left. And it was only a few days ago, Sheikh Hasina bragged about this thing that I will never leave this country, I will never run away from this. But he had to. So things have changed very quickly, but it was in the making. In the last 2 weeks, things moved very quickly. She lost control. She lost control of people. She lost not just control, she lost also respect of a lot of people. And many of them used to respect. So that was the main thing. It was an ignominious exit for Sheikh Hasina. Now it depends on the army largely, and also the president who was.
And so, what do you think will be the role of the army to ensure a smooth transition? Like you rightly said, Mr. Khalidi, it has been a very unfortunate turn of events for Bangladesh and also, for some of the top authorities. But it's a turn of event that has also been received with jubilation, with great joy, with great celebration by the people of Bangladesh as well. We saw those visuals of people rejoicing and expressing their relief that something like this has happened.
Somehow Sheikh Hasina managed to create a lot of enemies. Even some of her friends and supporters and well-wishers also turned against her because of probably her arrogance, the way she used to speak, and the way complete disregard for rule of law. That is very unfortunate because she fought for democracy. She really sacrificed for more than 40 years. She's been head of the party. When she returned, everything was in shambles. The party was in really bad shape. She reorganized it. She absolutely won that December 2008 elections. Absolute resounding victory. Then she squandered it. She had a lot of opportunity. Maybe you could say that, this kind of the media thing kind of unnerved. But then she had a lot of opportunity in the last 16 years to reform a lot of things, reform the civil service, reform the way government is run. And the most damaging thing that she did to this country was complete destruction of the electoral process. It damaged the electoral process. There's no faith and confidence.
Do you think that was the breaking point?
Country.
Because, she's a lady who is known for her defiance. She's someone who has been the longest serving prime minister, someone who's not, so easily to give up without giving a fight. So what do you think was really that breaking point for her, which led her to resign and then flee the nation?
Okay, I'll come to that. But, these 3 elections that followed her genuine victory, the December 2000. These elections were absolute. These are not elections at all. Someone was saying, even under Khaleda Zia, someone posted on social media, reading yesterday or the day before, that in fact, even when Khaleda Zia was in charge, people could vote for vote symbol. I mean, for Awami. During her reign, people couldn't even vote for Awami League because there's no vote at all. So that is probably the biggest damage she's done to herself, to her reputation, to her legacy, and to the party, to the political establishment, to the polity, to our society. That will take quite a bit of time to restore. I mean, very difficult. Now, what will happen? What was your question? He said.
No, I wanted to ask you, yes, what's going to happen? The army chief has said that an interim government is going to be formed. The army is very much in control right now. What do you think is going to happen next?
Everything, such a situation occurs in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, the army has to step in. The army has stepped in, and they have, well, some credibility, and then some also people also fear that. They do not want to become a fighting down. In 1990, Hossein Mohammad Ershad resigned exactly on 4th of December. 6th was the formal handover. The alliances took two more days to sort things out. Then why did he have to resign? He was like this. So it's a similar situation. When army said, enough is enough, we are not going to shoot and kill these people. So he had to resign. He had no respect for rule of law. He was a brutal, absolutely shameless dictator. So he had to go. He had to go because same thing. I mean, in 1996,
right,
Khaleda Zia had to resign, having held a election in February 1996. Then another election was held in probably June. Yes, and Amli came to power. You see, when the law enforcers say that we cannot handle, when they are overwhelmed, when they get overpowered by the people power, then there is no other option. Because all these people, I mean, powers that be, they rely on these people to stay cling on to power. Sheikh Hasina had enormous support, which she lost. She squandered a huge opportunity to do good things. Well, she probably did quite a few iconic infrastructure, but then at what cost? Yes, probably for what she could have done for 100 crores, she ended up spending 300 crores, 500 crores. She allowed people to be corrupt. That is another thing. So that she allowed people to be corrupt. She surrounded herself with people who would say things that she would like to hear. That was her problem. Now, what's next? The army, yes, army will now go to the president.
Yes.
And they will try to form a government. Interim government.
Well, at least that's the intent, that's the endeavor, and that was what was mentioned by the army chief. Mr. Khalidi, just kindly stay on with me. Unfortunately, I just have to take a very short break, but we will continue speaking to you, and we will continue to tell our viewers the very latest as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, and where exactly is she headed to. Time for a short break. Stay tuned.
The big news. It's a prime time like no other. 6 p.m. Plain Speak with Shivani Gupta.
It's time to say it as it is.
7 p.m. The Hard Facts with Rahul Shivshankar.
When the facts speak for themselves, just like that.
8 p.m. The Right Stand with Anand Narsiman.
Where India comes first, always.
9 p.m. Saga Jacob on Brass Tags.
Where the big stories are simplified bite by bite.
Only on CNN News 18 Federal Bank Primetime Studio. 6 to 10 p.m. Weeknights on CNN News 18.
भाई मैंने भी इस बार SIP करके म्यूचुअल फंड में पैसे डाले तो मुझे ये जानना था कि KYC का चक्कर क्या है
म्यूचुअल फंड सही है .com या अपने म्यूचुअल फंड की वेबसाइट पे जाओ पैन नंबर डालो और सिर्फ इतना देखो कि तुम्हारा KYC स्टेटस रजिस्टर्ड है या वैलिडेटेड
रजिस्टर्ड हो तो
आधार और पैन कार्ड के साथ अपना KYC वैलिडेट करो जरूरी है और ज्यादा वक्त भी नहीं लगता
और वैलिडेटेड हो तो
सही है
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें
Listen, there's a good insurance policy.
A good insurance policy. Let's ask AI. A policy in which premium payment is limited but provides income for lifetime.
LIC Jeevan Utsav.
A policy with whole life insurance cover also.
LIC's Jeevan Utsav.
Wow. Let's buy. LIC's Jeevan Utsav policy is our best choice.
Even I was telling you the same. LIC's Jeevan Utsav.
Lifetime celebration. With LIC's Jeevan Utsav, your future is set.
Somewhere, a new road has enabled science to reach a remote village, so that Purni can think of reaching the moon one day.